Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
This episode is brought to you by Latin Excellence. Visit latinexcellence.com. That's Latinx, CELLENCE.com or latinxmovement.com to learn more and shop our merchandise. You are excellence. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis, and I'm your host. This is a special edition of Hispanic Heritage Month. My name is Luis. Thank you for joining us. Today, I have a very special guest. And before I introduce her, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Hispanic Heritage Month and how it came about. So the month takes place between September 15th and October 15th every year as a time to recognize and celebrate the many contributions, culture, and extensive histories of the American Latino community. It first began as a Hispanic Heritage Week in 1968 and later became Hispanic Heritage Month in 1988. Since then, the month has been celebrated nationwide through festivals, art shows, conferences, community gatherings, and much more. The reason it starts on September 15th is because it celebrates the independence of several Latin American countries, including Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua on September 15th, then Mexico on September 16th, and Chile on September 18th. That's a little history for you, because a lot of people mistakenly think that Mexican Independence Day is Cinco de Mayo. It was an important battle, right? But it wasn't the actual Independence Day. They also include holidays that recognize Hispanic contributions, such as Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico Friendship Day, which is celebrated in the U.S. Virgin Islands the second Monday in October. For this month, I'd like to highlight individuals who have made great contributions in the chosen profession and the community at large. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you today to our very special guest, Valerie. I'm going to read you just a little bit snippet about her and then introduce her so that she can tell us about herself. Valerie is a proud Latina and first-gen Mexican-American. She was born and raised in South Side of Chicago. She continues to live there today with her husband and 3-year-old daughter, Violet Esperanza. Valerie has spent over 10 years in financial services, working directly with individuals and families in all aspects where money touches their life. She is part of just over 1% of Latinas that hold the Certified Financial Planner designation. She's the founder of FirstGen Wealth, a financial planning practice serving early to mid-career first-generation wealth builders across the United States. And she's passionate about normalizing quality financial advice, educating people, and just helping them become overall powerhouses. So without further ado, welcome, Valerie.
Thank you so much, Luis. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. An honor. I am so glad that we met and we are in a study group together.
Yes.
And I'm just like amazed how fast I see you out there. I know you recently launched your practice and you're like on speed dial, just like all the way to from 0 to 100. So yeah, congratulations on that. That's true. Yeah, it definitely does reflect the appetite. Without a doubt. Tell us a bit about your background, just like where you were born and raised and your family and all that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm born and raised in Chicago. My parents came here from Mexico. So I had a kind of similar background to many people where a parent came when they were a teenager, right? My dad came to seek out a better life. He was forced to drop out of school at a young age to help support the family. And he knew he wanted more for himself. And so, right, he heard about the American dream, came here, happened to meet my mom in a neighborhood of Chicago. And so they started their life here together. So they're in the same home that they purchased nearly 50 years ago. And my husband and I recently moved back to my home neighborhood once we had our daughter, who's now 3 years old.
Wow, that's amazing. So growing up in the household, how important was it to speak Spanish?
Well, here's the thing, Luis. I am one of those modern day Mexicans who my Spanish is terrible. It's like here is what's interesting. Growing up, my parents spoke Spanish to each other, right? It's their first language. And yet to us, everything was about assimilation. Yeah. So they only spoke to us in English. Only recently did it become cool to be Latino, to speak Spanish. Like this was not my world growing up. I wish it was. That would have been really nice. So right now I'm in the process of trying to learn Spanish. My daughter knows more than me at this point. So I only speak to her in Spanish. I understand a lot. I can hold on a conversation. I speak to my family. I can get by if I go to Mexico, but can I conduct Spanish business? Like, no way. No way. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing that, because first of all, you're not alone. And I see that in my family as well, where I think those of us that came originally from like the Dominican Republic right at an early age, the original intent was to immediately assimilate to the culture, and then now you see like the younger generation, like my nephews and nieces, to then like really be into like learning Spanish and all. But when we first came, it was just a matter of like blending in immediately, right? So to give you an example, I started calling myself Luis, right? Introducing myself as Luis, even though my name is Luis. And it's funny now because I live in California. So people always ask me like, hey, is it Luis or is it Luis, right?
Yeah.
And, I don't care what people call me. Either way, I'm used to both. But it's true. It's just like, it was just a matter of like, okay, we want to like blend in. You don't want to stand out.
It is. It's so true. It's so true. Like, I think about my career, right? In my career, I've always been the only one like me. And I feel like I've had my like Latino beaten out of me in a way because I've had to shield so much of it. I once had a firm have HR called on me because I was speaking to my mom in Spanish on the phone, and
Wow.
I was making them uncomfortable because I didn't know what I was talking about.
Wow.
Right? It's like stuff like that happening, or I would say mango, like mango, it's a mango, right? So I've had to come to terms with like who I am today because I felt like I've had to strip so much of myself professionally.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Like that's amazing. You had to strip some of yourself. This is one of the major reasons why we started the BLX internship program, was because we feel like a lot of people don't feel like they could be themselves, like their true self at work. And you have to kind of play this role, right? And it's like speaking two languages, right? You have the work version of yourself, and then the one when you go back home and you deal with your friends and family, which is insane. It still happens to this day. So when you were growing up, right? Let's say, how did that evolve into you having a passion for what you're doing today in terms of money? What was like your money memories when you were growing up? Anything you can think of that shaped kind of like your thoughts about money at an early age?
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of things. So I didn't grow up in a household that lacked anything, right? We had a lot of love. I have 3 siblings. We had everything that we needed. But I was always aware of people that had less. So I grew up in a house, which is nice, right? Like that's a huge deal. That
you were rich.
Yeah, I was rich. But I grew up directly across the street from housing projects. And that's still where my parents live today. And that's everyone I went to school with. So I was the rich one because I had a house and all of my friends lived in the housing projects. Right. So no matter what you think you don't have, like someone else has less. So it made me keenly aware of what I had, what I didn't have. And then growing up, if I ever wanted to do anything, my parents would say, sure, you can go see your friend. We're not giving you any money to do that. So I knew that money provided me with options and independence. So I have been working since I was 15 years old, and I've been working full time since the day I graduated high school. Right. So I'm 37 years old. It's been nearly 20 years of me working full time.
Wow.
And I remember just being a teenager, working at 15, and I would work after school and I would work on the weekends as well. Like terrible for education. But I was really focused on, I want to have money so that my mom can't tell me I can't use my cell phone if I bought my cell phone and I pay for the minutes themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely aging ourselves, talking about minute limitations.
After 9, it was always free. You know what I mean?
I remember nights and weekends. That was amazing. I had a friend that used to turn his cell phone on at 9, specifically, just purposely for that reason.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I remember there was a company that offered free incoming, but you had to pay for outgoing. at the time. And so I remember that it was a thing too. Like you would call somebody, like, hey, call me right back, you know? Oh my God. Yeah, you took me back for sure. And, you know, you brought something very important to mind, which was like perspective, right? Because you talked about how across the street from you, there were people that lived in the projects, right? And I remember growing up in the Dominican Republic, there was a lot of things that we were lacking. But there's always somebody else that has it even worse off. So in my case, for example, like we lived in a house that was like made out of cinder block, right? We had a tin roof, basically it was made of sheet metal. But some of my friends that did live across the street had it even worse, where they didn't even own a home. It was just like they rented a room and like this like second level like place was all just rooms, and they shared a bathroom with like the whole community across the street, you know. And it's just interesting because I remember that in my family, like we used to have meat every day, right? And that was considered like a luxury, right? So my parents were able to go once a day and like buy, say, like a chicken, and it was split depending on our age, right? So like I remember I was the youngest, I would get like the chicken gizzard and the neck. That was my part, my designated part. And the older you were, the better part of the chicken you got, which should have been backwards. You know, I definitely got to thank my parents.
Big meaty breast, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, people looked at me like, oh, like you're rich, you know, like you eat meat every day, you know, because a lot of them just ate like straight up white rice, you know?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's just very interesting to hear you say that as well, just how perspective.
It's true. It's so true. My husband grew up where they had the whole huachinango when they went out to eat. And I'm like, oh, that must be nice. You had the whole huachinango. We had to share it for 3 people. It must be nice.
Right. So he was, yeah, he had it good.
He was the rich one. Yeah, it's all relative. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now, tell me about some of your career path, you know, how you ended up in financial services and eventually how that led to you launching your own firm.
Yeah. I didn't know wealth management or financial planning existed, right? It's not marketed to our community in any way. There was no wealth to manage. And it was by happenstance of working in one place and working another place, and right where I ended up working in banking, work at Short Bank, a community development financial institution. So everything there was about providing access through credit and loans to low-income communities in Chicago. So that really shaped my view on social justice. It was primarily serving Black and Brown communities there. And it was through there that I learned about a wealth management firm because my old boss was transitioning over. She told me to apply. I was terrified to apply, right? A really just white glove, high-end firm. I felt completely unworthy to apply. And it was because of her telling me, right? Like a white woman who went to Harvard, right? But she believed in me, telling me, you can do this. I believe in you. You can. And that made all the difference, right? Having someone to vouch for you and provide that level of sponsorship. And she's still someone I know to this day. So that's what led me to even discover this as a career path. And as I met with advisors, I was an associate there. I was working on client plans, and I see these advisors presenting these plans that I worked on in the background. And I felt as if I knew these clients intimately on paper. But the advisor was able to go and be the rock star and have the relationship and present it. And for me, it was, I want to be that. I want to be in that role. So I knew I wanted my CFP. I didn't have a whole lot of support there. There was a lot of racism and classism and sexism at that firm. They flat out told me that I would never be an advisor because primarily they worked with people who were just really rich, and they hired advisors who came from really connected backgrounds. And because I don't come from any sort of pedigree, right, or the right neighborhood or the right school, I was deemed as unworthy there.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was really tough. I was there for about 1.5 years, and my husband can tell you, like, I came home crying all the time. And I think because I'm stubborn, it helped me because I knew that they weren't right. Yeah, and then I went multiple firms from there. Developed a lot of experience, worked with a ton of people. And essentially, I was at a point where I'm helping really great people with a lot of money with their financial planning and investment management. And at the end of the day, right, like we all want the same thing in life, right? To be happy and to be healthy and to spend time with the people that we love. So the clients themselves at the root of it are great, but I knew that I wanted to serve a different demographic because I wasn't serving anyone who looked like me in any capacity or had a similar background to me in any capacity. So it went from this gnawing feeling that I was part of income inequality and part of creating and further dividing the wealth gap because I'm only serving people who already have wealth. And I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there a moment that kind of like just sparked that and you were like, okay, that's it. Like I'm launching my practice.
There was another advisor who put it in my ear and it went from there's no way I will ever do this. And then it transitioned to there's no way I won't do this. I don't desire to be in charge or be in the spotlight. Like I don't. I frankly made my own practice because there was nothing else that existed for me to join.
Yeah.
I tried going to an independent firm and I looked at independent fee-only firms. And there was just an overall like, lack of diversity in who they're serving, lack of diversity of the leadership there. And I was just tired of it. I was just super tired of it.
Yeah, I could so relate to that because I went through the same experience where it came to a point where like the firms that I was working for, it was like so many people were being excluded from even having access to the information and working with a financial planner because it was so focused on assets under management. So if somebody didn't have X, Y amount to invest, they just didn't even get a chance to even speak to a planner, right? And I thought that was kind of backwards, right? Because I'm like, well, at least in our community, right, we got to help build the wealth to manage first.
Exactly.
So a lot of people are skeptics as to being able to make a profitable firm and a living working within our communities. But I know that it is absolutely possible. And there is a lot of wealth to be built and transferred later.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned mentorship as one of the things that helped you, which was great because I know that a lot of people unfortunately don't have that. And it's hard to sometimes believe in yourself if somebody else doesn't like push you at least to see that you have the capabilities, right? So tell me about some of the most influential people in your life growing up that helped you just continue on your path and get that confidence you needed to continue to pursue your goals.
Yeah. I mean, definitely my family, just not even by what they say, just by being there for me, right? My family has always been incredibly supportive. With that comes challenges because, it's your family. My husband, right? My husband, we met when I was really young. I had just turned 20 years old. And the nice thing about meeting so early in life was that I'm figuring life out, he's figuring life out. And so we were able to really build together. So that was not by design, but has been the most influential relationship in my entire life, obviously. And then I would also say I have a really strong friend network. And I have a group of 7 friends. We're on a WhatsApp group together. And this is my go-to crew. You need to get pumped up. You need to ask for advice. Something went down. This is my crew. And I've known most of them half my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah, right. Building that community around you. So if I'm ever feeling down, I go to my WhatsApp, pump me right back up.
Yeah, it takes a village. Well, let me tell you, 7 friends, that's really impressive. Especially
I know. It's a lot of cheese, man. I'll tell you that too.
Yeah. Of course. What would it be without the cheese, man? You have to have some. Without a doubt. No, that's amazing. I think family, friends are definitely very important in our journeys. And sometimes we have to have somebody to lean on because especially as a business owner, there are days like I felt like throwing in the towel, because you're just grinding it out every single day. Like you were saying, like I didn't sign up to be a business owner. This wasn't a goal of mine 5 years ago. I wasn't sitting there like, oh, I want to launch my own firm. It was just a matter of not fitting somewhere. And now you end up wearing all these hats, right? So aside from being a financial planner, you end up being your own bookkeeper and your own marketer and your own compliance person. And you're a mom and a wife, right? So I know you were recently featured in an article that was kind of touching on those points about how do you balance it all, so tell us a little bit about that. Just kind of how do you keep it all together? and have a life-work balance, which I like to say instead of work-life balance, because life comes first, right?
Yeah. Well, that was a big reason why I started the practice in the first place, right? I didn't want to be told I couldn't go to my daughter's ballet class. I didn't want to be told that I couldn't take the day off if she was sick. So it was the lack of flexibility from the day job that I knew I had, or in part, to start my own piece, because I didn't want a company to ever tell me the level of depth of relationship I could have with my own child. And I feel like so many companies that attempt to promote work-life balance or unlimited PTO, right? Like, it's a lot of talk. And once you're there, it's not the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
And so while I do work a lot right now, without a doubt. And it's incredibly fulfilling. I'm so energized at this stage, but I also have built my practice around my life too. So yes, I'm working 6 days a week right now, but I also will stop at 2 p.m. to take my daughter to her dance class and then come back at 5.
Gotcha.
But that's what fits my life. And that likely won't fly if I was at a company, right, doing this.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. How did you come up with the name FirstGen? What inspired that?
Just me being first gen, the first generation in this country, and thinking about what that means. I wanted to expand upon the definition a bit, because I think it's easy to think of it as more of a Latino thing, or you're coming from another country. But I wanted to also include the people who are the first to go to college, or maybe the first to leave their small town and come to the big city. The first people, right, to really just kind of build on their own, because there are many people who, right, didn't have that level of advocacy growing up. I know I had amazing parents, but they didn't know how to be advocates for me. And so I wanted it to be the first who are really building their lives for themselves, who didn't have an opportunity to learn about any of this. Right? And they're pioneers in their own way, which I think is also really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. Like, I came from the Dominican Republic when I was 11, and my parents were already, like, my father was probably, in his 60s already. And my mother in her 50s. And they didn't know English. They didn't know the US financial services system at all. So, like, I remember even when I went to college, I was filling out the applications, financial aid forms, all that stuff. Like, they were not able to help me with any of that stuff. Right. And then when we got our first jobs, and it's like 401k, I have no idea what that is. How do I choose the investments within it? Like, I don't know what a company match was. Like, nothing. Right. And they couldn't really help me with that. They taught me how to just work hard and get an education, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's interesting, right? Because so many Latinos, the parents promote education. I come from an interesting family where mine didn't promote education; they just promoted hard work. So everything was about hard work, and being really, really loyal. But they missed the education piece of things. So even when I told them I wanted to go to college, they're like, "Okay, cool, good for you. Go figure it out." Cool.
Let us know how it goes, right?
Let us know how it goes. Yes, yes, yes. So, there was a lack of advocacy, but not love, right? But they just didn't know how, like, flat out, like, they didn't know how. And that's the case for so many of us. Is that our parents are trying their best; they're working their butts off to give us everything they couldn't have, and just have to roll with the punches.
Yeah. How do you see, like, now that you are on the other side of the coin, right? And
Yeah.
you've seen the things that you should know, like estate planning and all that. How does that play into, like, your family dynamic when you speak to, like, your parents, like, about wills and whatever,
I will tell you that it is difficult, because there's still some element of me that feels like I lead a double life. Working at large firms with people with a ton of money, and then coming to my home and community situation, right? Two different worlds. And so today, there's so much that I know, right? And I have to be careful with with basically minding my business too.
Right.
because I could see a sibling or a cousin or a parent or like, oh, you need to have the employees going to do that. And I also need to know like what my place is within the family. So I will tell you, like it's difficult because I want to help everyone. But when it comes to family, things get tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, because a lot of the times too, like the mentality that someone has plays a role because of the kind of like the background that they had, growing up. It's their money story, right? And sometimes those translate into the decisions that they make
Absolutely.
as adults, right? And I know, like, like even in my own family, right? Like a lot of things that are things that probably wouldn't be approved by the book, right? When you're studying, like for your CFP, like are things that are valued.
Yeah, no, it's true. Right. And I see that with my clients, a big area for my clients is family, right? Because my clients are all first gens, whether it means they're from another country or the first to go to college or the first to be a doctor. Like these are people who have all overcome some stuff and they're all incredibly inspiring. But I have yet to have a client who hasn't had an element of a family involved, whether that means being able to provide for the family through loans, being able to provide for the family just like ongoing giving. But there's a family component to every single person that I work with, right? And it's being able to listen to the client, honor them, right? Respect what they're going through. Because I can tell you that in my old life, if anyone were to bring something like that up, the advisor would say, well, basically would be dismissive of them, right? Like, look out for yourself only and be on your way. But it's having that level of empathy around the fact that like we don't come alone, but we come with our group. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is so important. Like you're in the 1% of Latinas that have the CFP certification, right? Certified Financial Planner, and that's why like the big push, at least like for me, is so important to continue to bring more people of Black and Brown descent, basically into the profession, because those things matter so much. Somebody that has never experienced or been exposed to that type of, there's cultural norms to be aware of, that if you can't relate, you can't just throw the book at somebody and be like, oh, forget all that. Just put money in your 401k. That's not always the answer, right?
I know. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true, right? And it's helping clients set themselves up in a way where they're honoring themselves, they're honoring their goals, honoring their family, but they're also not sabotaging their situation either, right? And that's a delicate balance.
That is a delicate balance. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes people go from one extreme to the other. It's either like survival mode or, okay, well, I never had this growing up, so I'm just going to go all out now that I'm making money, right? At the expense of tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes as financial planners, we wear many hats within the practice, right? When we're dealing with clients, it could be some sort of therapist to some degree, right? Psychologists and
oh yeah, right. Because so much of our story, whether we want to accept it or not, and so much of the decisions that we make in life revolve around money. Like there's no doubt about it, right? It's like why there's like this cheap $30 painting behind me, it's there's so much of the why behind it, and we're impacted every day by questions about money, right? If money was unlimited, I'd have my masseuse on speed dial and my personal chef and my 3 nannies, right? But like money's money. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And and speaking of that, like what keeps you motivated?
Ooh, so much. I am a complete financial planning nerd. I geek out about financial planning. So I will have calls with friends who are planners and we'll just talk about different topics. So I truly am obsessed with this profession. So that's super motivating. And then to apply it to a group of clients who would traditionally be ignored by the industry, and people who are just like doing amazing things in the country, it's the coolest thing ever. So I'm so excited and so grateful. And I'm just so like jealous of my daughter too, right? Like who gets like to see all of this, like it's normal for her that she's going to grow up with this mom who has her own practice that helps people manage their money. So the thought of my daughter one day, no pressure for her, but like coming into my practice and being a planner, just even the idea of it is so motivating to me. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. And it's just so fitting too, because then it's like the transfer of wealth in the generation, right? She can take over and continue on.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to ask you, so if you had a superpower, what would that be?
I feel like I do already. I am very resilient, and it's because of the people around me, right? Like I have a deep community. And if someone tells me no, like I'm also pretty, I'm a planner, like by nature. Like that's how I roll. I'm always thinking about A, B, C, like what could go down. So I'm always planning, but I'm just like super resilient. I don't care what haters get in my way. I keep moving along.
You just keep moving. Yeah, that's definitely a superpower, especially in today's world. I feel like, even like with social media and stuff, like it's so easy to just get somebody to come out of, just be in the shadows and be a keyboard warrior and then just be negative, leave a negative comment or something over something you said. It's very unfortunate,
It is. I know.
So I wanted to ask you a couple of fun questions.
Sure.
So growing up, right, Mexican American, what was like your favorite dish that your mom made or your dad made or that you experienced growing up?
Oh, okay. My mom is the best cook, and we pretty much only ate Mexican food. Like we didn't go out to restaurants. So we didn't have money for that. Okay, so my mom throws down enchiladas de pollo. My favorite is chicken and mole.
Oh,
so like chicken and mole, and if the mole is from Oaxaca, even better. But yeah, that's my number one jam.
Nice. And did you with enchiladas, you have both the red and the green sauce?
Of course, come on.
Never ending debate, would you?
Same thing with the pozole, the red and the green. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Wait, that's actually the birthday dish. Whenever it's any of my siblings' birthdays, it's either going to be enchiladas or pozole. Those are the two that my mom will make depending upon what the birthday person wants. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Now another important question: corn or flour tortillas?
Okay. Oh, corn for my everyday. I'm in Chicago, and the company's El Milagro. That's if I go to the store and El Milagro isn't there, I don't buy tortillas. That's it. I'll be forced to use a lettuce cup, which is very sad. But I'll do flour if it's handmade flour and it's for breakfast.
Oh, interesting. So like with eggs and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like huevitos, some like salchicha. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Oh, you got my mouth watering now. What are you grateful for today?
So much. Like I'm grateful for my health, my family. I'm grateful that it's pretty cool. I have a financial planning practice. I'm pretty pumped about that. I'm grateful that I have a voice, right? I felt like I didn't have a voice for so long, that I was muted for so long. And so it's really interesting professionally to actually show myself. I'm not accustomed to that, but it's really cool that now that I am, it's being well received. So it makes me feel very grateful for the future of the profession, because I'm not special. There are a lot of people like me. And so I hope that it helps to spread the word about the power of this profession and getting more people like me in it.
Yeah, it could definitely be life-changing. And, same here for me when you were talking about how you didn't even know that this existed. Neither did I. I went to college. I got a degree in economics. There was no financial planning major. I never heard the word financial planning in my life. I just didn't even know it was a thing. Right. And eventually I got introduced to a CFP professional out of college. And then it took me a while even to understand what he did, and I ended up working there for 15 years. And then I fell in love with it, right? It's because I could see the impact that we can have on people. And it was amazing. So if you were in an elevator with someone who will never see you again, right? They hop on for 30 seconds. What is something that you would like to leave them with? Anything you've learned throughout your life? Any words of wisdom that you like to share?
Oh my goodness. I thought you were going to ask me who I would be on there with. I'm like, Lin-Manuel Miranda without even thinking twice. Get me an elevator with Lynn. I'm just going to hug him the whole time. What would I say to them? Oh my goodness, that's so hard. What would I say to someone? Luis, 30 seconds. I'm not that deep or profound. I would probably tell them to do what makes you happy, to invest in your Roth IRA, to spend less than you make, and you'll never go broke. That's probably what I would say.
Got it. No, I love it, because you can see the values in it, right? Number one was just do what makes you happy. So I think that says a lot, right? Because unfortunately, I know a lot of people who make a good living and they're just literally miserable for 8 hours out of their day, right? And sometimes, it's better to take a pay cut and do something that feeds your soul.
Yeah, to have a higher quality of life. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you were mentioned, like you can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go take my daughter to ballet class at 2, like that's amazing. Just being there, she's going to remember that forever, just looking out into the crowd and seeing you there. Like you can't put a price tag on that.
Well, and you know what, too? It's because I worked at all of these firms where there were very few women in the first place, right? And of the women that were there, it was primarily women who either they had no children or their children were older, or they had a lot of help. But I saw something that I didn't want for myself. And I did not want to wake up one day and realize I missed my daughter growing up because I was just trying to hustle and get that next huge client, and get that huge house and just live up to expectations that society puts on us, but not actually be present in my own life.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Well, congratulations on having that clarity and having the guts to say, you know what, I'm going to design my life.
Thank you. It's because of my financial planning. Like that's really what it came down to. Like I think that's why I'm such an advocate for it, because I know what it's done in my own life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today and your experiences and words of wisdom. So where can we find you, social media, websites, and so on?
Yeah, sure. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter at FirstGen Wealth, and I'm on Instagram as well. And my website is onegenwealth.com.
FirstGen Wealth. Is that the number one or O-N-E?
The number one.
Number one, genwealth.com. I will also put links in the show notes for everyone that wants to get in touch with Valerie and continue to follow her journey. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Valerie, so much for coming on. And good luck with the rest of the painting of the house.
Thank you so much, Luis. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As always, if you have any questions, send me an email, luis@onmywaytowealth.com, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.